It's the Brad and John Show.
It is the Brad and John Show. Today is June 18th, and as I've been corrected by John, I'm the dumb of the two guys. John's the smart guy. I can't even talk. Tomorrow is Juneteenth, not today. Why do I keep thinking it's the 18th?
I think it because 18th, it sounds more compatible with Juneteenth. It's both two syllables, Juneteenth, 18th.
Right.
19th. Yeah, I don't know why, Brad.
Okay.
And maybe because it's not a real holiday. Maybe it's just been a make-believe diversity thing that we've only had to pretend to appreciate since George Floyd.
Didn't Trump command that we call Columbus Day again? Was that one of the things
Yeah, I think so. Isn't that great? Finally putting a little bit of, for our friends over on, well, we can't say the name of the hill, but let's just call it the Hill. They got to be pleased about that.
Are they going to put the Columbus statue back up? What is it, Tower Grove Park, where they took the Columbus statue down, wherever that was?
I think they are, but they're going to have him they're going to have a new visual of him subjugating and civilizing Indians.
Okay. You ready for this? To me, this is a really funny and great story, okay?
Yes.
Several U.S. Army bases, originally named after Confederate figures, have been renamed back to their original names, but with new, different same honorees. The reverse is changes made in 2023, which aim to remove Confederate names from military installations. The Army is now honoring service members who embody the best of the U.S. Army with the original base names, according to the Department of Defense. So they went through and they combed the database of, like, for example, the one they give. Here's for example, Fort Bragg, originally named after a Confederate general, was renamed Fort Liberty in 2023, but is now reverting to Fort Bragg, honoring World War II paratrooper Roland L. Bragg. So they found
That's great.
Okay, here's the other one. Fort Benning in Georgia was renamed Fort Moore in 2023, but is now reverting to Fort Benning, honoring World War I Corporal Fred G. Benning. So they went and found these guys. Here's another one. Forts Pickett, Gordon, Polk, and Rucker are also reverting to their original names with new honorees from the Army. And the new namesakes include recipients of the Medal of Honor, Distinguished Service Cross, and other awards for valor representing a diverse range of service members. The decision to revert to the original names was driven by the desire to restore the legacy of the bases and their connections to the community, according to Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Okay. I agree with this 100% because of the fact that, I've talked about this before. It drives me nuts when they rename stuff because, like, for example, in St. Louis, we're diehards. If you go out to watch concerts out there in that place off of 70 and Earth City Expressway, where are you going, John?
You're going to Riverport.
Exactly. You're not going to.
I don't call it the Hollywood Amphitheater or Hollywood Casino.
Nobody does. Nobody does. You go to Riverport. If you're driving west on that highway that starts in downtown, that goes through Richmond Heights and the Central West End and then into Ladue, what highway are you on, John?
It is Highway 40.
Yes, or 40, depending upon which side of 40 or 40 you're on. So. And even to the point where the dome, it was the TWA Dome, people called the TWA Dome, and then it was the Edward Jones Dome, and now it's the Dome Dome. I'm going like, right.
Now it's that's the Kikaw Dome.
Whatever the hell it is, yeah. The Kakaw Dome.
Kakaw Dome. See,
see, the interesting thing was I heard yesterday on this very show, I heard someone discussing exactly what I have said. You drive around St. Louis area. For example, there's a new overpass out in St. Charles County. It's been there a couple years now on 70 between Wentzville and the Forestel exit. Okay, it's the David Hokel Parkway, Hoekel. Who is David Hokel? Okay, and the interesting thing is, I've asked several people in St. Charles County, who's David Hokel? They don't know. Don't you think, and this is my thing, if you're going to name him, stick a big monstrous plaque there saying, this overpass is named after David Hokel, who was a World War II hero, blah, 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 blah. For example, I used to be a guest speaker at the Logan College of Chiropractic. By the way, I have to tell you a funny story last night that happened to me at the Mike Elam thing. Logan College of Chiropractic, and the guy that I always called me up and was the nicest guy in the world, he was a professor out there, Dr. Ralph Barrale, okay? On eastbound Highway 70 out in the Lake St. Louis area, there is a sign. It's the Ralph Barrale Memorial Overpass. Now, I talked to Ralph Barrale a few years back, and I said, Ralph, how did you get your own overpass? And he goes, that's not me. It's another guy named Ralph Barrale, which I thought was sort of interesting.
That's a small world.
Right, small world. And I go, and I think he lived out there too. He says, I get that question all the time. People say, how did you get your own overpass? And he goes, well, it's not me. It's another guy's World War II hero, something like that. Okay, so I'm at the event last night for Mike Elam, okay? And I'm talking to the mayor, and I'm sort of, and mayor's an old-timer like me, and Mayor Pagano, and we're talking about various changes in St. Charles. And I was explaining to a couple of women who came up and were talking to me and to also Mr. Pagano about my Westplex deal. And the one woman says, what's the Westplex? I said, you're old enough to remember this probably. How long have you lived? She says, 50 years. I go, remember the Golden Triangle? Oh, yeah, the Golden Triangle. That's the Westplex. And I said, and I talked about the fact that all the things that have changed since I moved out here. For example, I lived off the Central School Road, which was, if you're coming, matter of fact, if my friends came from West County, I would say, hey, it's easy to get to my house. Just go west on 40, go north on 94. When you get to the first traffic light, which at the time was Central School Road, I think it's now like the 18th traffic light between Highway 40 and Central School Road. But it used to be a two-lane road. 94 was a two-lane road, as was K for a long time, until you got further north, okay? There was a McDonald's on the corner of Central School Road and Highway 94. There was a Jack in the Box on the corner of Jungerman Road and Highway 94. Both of them were destroyed. Now, and I was saying this, and a guy walks up behind me, and I said, there was a building not too far from where I lived that was in the way of the expansion of 364, and they picked it up and they moved the building. And the guy says, that's my building. It was the son of the chiropractor that owned that building. And
wow, okay.
And it was so weird that he was standing there, and he told the story about how his father, it's a two-story office building, it's still sitting right there, that it was in the path of the eminent domain they're going to take. And his father said, look, this building's in really good shape. Isn't there any way you can move it? And they said, well, we don't know. So they called in a house moving company, and they said, yep, we can do it, and it's going to cost X. So the highway department bought the property for him, which was across the street, and they moved it. But what's interesting is they turned it 90 degrees. Hold on a minute. The building used to sit at a 90-degree angle to the traffic flow back then in 94. Now it's parallel to 364. So they moved it across the street and turned it 90 degrees, and there it is. So it was sort of interesting, because what are the chances of me talking about something and the guy who owns the building is standing right behind me? Wasn't that weird?
Yeah, it's a very small world. That's what you get. And that's what people can expect if they go to a Mike Elam event. They can meet all kinds of people from the community and learn some wacky stories, right?
Okay. So another wacky story from last night. Remember how we called Mike Elam and how I told the story about how I couldn't find his campaign thing?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'm telling Mike Elam this, and a lady is standing right there, and she goes, we had the same problem. We couldn't find it either. And the crazy part of it is, I pulled into Newtown, and there were two ladies in a golf cart, and I said, do you live here? And they said, yes. And I said, where is this place? And they said, go down here and hang a right. I ended up at a construction site. And the lady says, we must have talked to the same two women, because that's exactly what happened to us. We turned into Newtown, and two ladies in a golf cart told us to drive this way, and we got lost. And I go, well, how did you find it? And you know what? This is Brad stupid me. This is why women are smart and guys like me are stupid. She says, I called Mike and he gave me the address and we put it into our phone and we navigated to it that way. I'm thinking to myself.
Very good. Now, Brad, if you had to guess, what was the approximate age of this woman that you spoke to?
20.
No, but really, was she your age? Like, was she north of 60?
No.
So like north of 70 then?
No.
Probably 80?
No, below 60.
Oh, wow. That's surprising then.
Well,
I thought that was kind of just a geriatric thing.
John, you haven't been to Newtown in a while. See, because of the fact that they have this thing against signs. There's this, I don't know if you know the rules in Newtown. For example, there's only...
Yeah, we talked about it the last time we talked about this a week ago.
Well, there are only certain colors you can paint your place. Do you know about this?
Yeah, I mean, they don't want somebody like a Brad doing gaudy, hobo signs or letting their paint deteriorate.
But but you also cannot paint your house the same color as either of your neighbors. So if you're in the middle of a block and your one color is beige and the other one's tan. You can't be beige or tan because each house, as you drive down the street, each house have to have a different color as you drive down the street.
What about Mocha Java?
I don't think it's on the pre-approved list.
Okay.
I think Mocha Java is out of there. I have no idea if Mocha Java is on there. But see, you know what's interesting? Because if you remember when we had Mike on the air, he said, maybe he listened to me ahead of time, and he says, it's not for everybody in Newtown, you know, because he was saying it's interesting thing. But see, to me, and I've said this before, and I have no problem with this. See, you know, if I owned a house and they were going to knock down the house next to me and build a McDonald's, I would say, hey, great, now I don't have to drive. I can just go right next door.
Yeah, you could just walk over there and clog your arteries.
Right, because some people go, oh, we can't be close to commercial zone. We can't, it's noisy, it's terrible. A friend of mine, this is one of these classic stories. A friend of mine bought a condo out in St. Charles, city of St. Charles, years ago, maybe back in the late 70s, early 80s, okay? And there was this beautiful, area behind her condo that had trees and all this kind of stuff. Very nice area, okay? And the developer said, oh, yeah, that's the common ground. It's going to be like that forever. Okay, now when I say what happened, most people go, oh, I know exactly what he's talking about. About a year after she moved in, they tore down all the trees and built a schnook snore behind her, which was on Zumble Road. And essentially, the builder was feeding everybody BS.
Oh, very good.
That the property was common ground. When it wasn't, it was owned by the developer behind them. And the developer owned all the property up to the back of their property line. And the trees were, behind her property line, which was, quote unquote, the common ground when it wasn't. And it's to the point where we're like, man, what do you do? What do you do with stuff like that? I mean, well,
you're just happy that there's a Schnooks there, right? Like that's the silver lining.
But that was my point. I'm thinking to myself, wow, you don't have to go far for Schnooks. You can walk through your backyard.
Yeah, that's very good.
End up in the parking lot at Schnooks. But you know how people are. It's like the Wildwood crowd. Oh, we can't have anything. It's to the point where I still, every time I take the shortcut or the long cut, whichever way you look at it, and I drive down Highway 100 and I pass Stovall's, I think to myself, what must the people in Wildwood think of that? That's an old-time country bar, which, by the way, I don't know if you know the story about that. That's bar is the namesake of the Brooks and Dunn song, Boot Scootin' Boogie. Do you know that?
No, I didn't know that. I thought it was named after former newsman Stan Stovall.
Well, it's not the namesake, but Kix Brooks and Ronnie Dunn were working for Fred Weber Construction, making the new Highway 100, and they met on that construction team, and at night they would go to Stovall's, which has been there forever and ever and ever and ever, and they would tip some brewskis because listen to the song, out in the country near the county line, because Stovall's is only about a half mile from the Franklin County line. That song was written by Brooks and Dunn about Stovall's in Wildwood.
I had no idea, Brad. And folks, if you're from the St. Louis area and you head way out 100, you'll run right into Stovall's.
You ever been there before, John?
I've never been in there. I've been past there many times.
You need to go there sometime.
Now, is that story true? Is that a true story?
Would I ever tell anything that wasn't true, John?
Yeah. Okay. No, but but you're saying that that's actually a real thing.
Would I ever tell you? Would I ever make anything up?
Yeah. Okay.
Would I ever make anything up?
We're not gonna, Brett. We made it through the whole show without conflict. We're not gonna start at 7:59. Now, if people want to hear C Block from today, don't go to YouTube because Brad will forget to post it.
I'll forget to post it. Is that what it is? Hold it. Oh, their phone's ringing. Who could that be? Probably won't answer. We're over time anyway. Hopefully, she's not going to answer. This is where I'm going to give you the definitive. She was going to tell you that story. I'm calling Shelley right now.
Good morning, this is Shelley.
Okay, you're on the air right now, so no potty mouth, okay? Remember when we were on BS show, and I told the story about how Kix Brooks and Ronnie Dunn, Brooks and Dunn met construction crew, Stovall's out in Wildwood, remember? And it's the Boot Scootin' Boogie story. Is that true or not?
I think it's true.
Oh! Thanks, Shelley. Bye. Talk to you later.
Bye, hon.
All right, so your source for that is a woman who says, I think it's true? There we go.
The reason that's so funny is because every time I told the story with her, she'd always say, you know what the name of this show is? It's the BS show.
Yeah, good point. That would be funny if it was true. Like, I don't believe it, but it would be funny. That would make for a good urban myth. And according to Google, Brad, there's no record of anybody even spreading the rumor that this is true. So maybe it's something you completely made up.
Why would I make something like that up, John? Say goodbye, John. We got to go.
All right, see you tomorrow.